was Adele with "Send Your Love" or "Send My Love to Your New Lover." And we are back in the studio with the sports guys. What do we've got this time?
All right, we'll go ahead and talk about the A&M Commerce football Lions. We have Jason Osei, who's currently the left guard for the A&M Commerce Lions, and obviously a great year last year. Finally getting back into the playoffs now. We went up to the bitter cold weather and lost to Ferris State, but they were the number one team in the country. But with that being said, we haven't been in the tournament in I don't know how many years, so it's just great to be involved in that again. And what are the things in your mind, Jason, that the team needs to improve on going into 2016?
Definitely, I think one of the main things is just finishing out games.
Right.
I feel there's a lot of games where, we were pretty much on top of teams and we had, a big advantage on them. But after a while, we kind of let them back in. And I feel like, I feel it was an interesting position to be in because, it's like, after a while, you kind of feel, okay, if we're comfortable, relaxed, we can get into it. But it's like at the same time, I feel like, sometimes there was times where we could have put some teams to bed and we really, didn't do that. And, the Angelo State games, both of them, those got pretty tight even
right.
after we were, literally putting a beating on them, in one sense of the word. And then the same thing with the Midwestern game, and the second time it came back to haunt us, and even in the Ferris State game, it did come back to haunt us too.
Sure. One thing that for us so far, at least for Lions fans anyway, we don't have to deal with the Lone Star Conference playoffs. But then again, as we talked about during the break, there's kind of a bit of a double-edged sword with that in the sense that you have to win the games in your regular season. You don't get bailed out by the playoffs. You now have Western New Mexico in the division, Oklahoma Panhandle State, and UT Permian Basin, all of which you have to go on the road. Obviously, those will be tough road games, but how do you prepare, I guess, mentally and physically for those long bus rides, or maybe the case Western New Mexico, you might fly out there, is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to be flying out there most likely. And in terms of preparing for those long bus rides and those, those long games, it's always, the mission is still the same. We're going to go out there, make sure that we do the best to, kind of do things beforehand to keep our bodies right, so that's hydrating, eating right, so then when we get on the bus, we can beat all those things like fatigue and cramping and so forth, because we know that once we step off that bus, it's go time, it's business time. And because every game, especially now this season, every game is a championship game. Every game counts. If we lose a game, it's detrimental to our championship. So there's no easy team. Every team is out there to get us. Now with the Lone Star Conference champ, there's no hiding. Every team's coming out after us. So we're watching our backs, and we're not actually defending a championship. We're attacking the contenders. If you want this championship, you're gonna feel it.
Right. And one game I wanted to touch on. It was a game that really intrigued me last year. Y'all had Delta State coming to Commerce last year, and that was a very hard-fought game. We ended up losing 51-44 in that game. Y'all go on the road to Delta State this year, in the second game of the year. I guess if you could briefly explain what was the reason, maybe several reasons why you may have lost the game last year, and what can you prove upon this year for that particular game?
It was the second game of the season, so
right.
There was a lot of jitters. At that time, we were a very new team, so if what most people don't know is that 50% of our team was freshmen and sophomores, so it was a very young team, and you had guys like me, who was a junior at the time, adding experience, so getting those guys prepared. So by then, we didn't really have we didn't have everything in place, but we went out there and we gave it a hard fight. And it was a hard-fought game. They were a great team. That team, take nothing away from them. That was a great team. And
sure.
That's a game I think that, we could have won and we should have won.
Right.
But, as I say, woulda, shoulda, coulda, we got pretty much everybody coming back. So we got more experience. That game's still burning in the soul of every guy. So once we go out there to, to Mississippi and go and take on Delta State, we're going to be bringing some heat. So, they better watch out for us.
Well, thank you guys for that. And looks like we've got an exciting season coming up for the Lions when we're all super excited to hear about all of the wins we're going to get, as I say. I have total faith that we're going to do great this season and that we're going to take home another championship.
I say we're going to be bringing it home, guys.
Well, we're going to get back into the music here on Lions After Dark, but stay tuned. At 10:45, we will be back with more sports.